The word das is usually, as we know, is usually translated as knowledge. But in Chassidus and Kabbalah, das, more than anything, represents connection. As in Va'adam Yada as Chava. Which the word Yada, in that context, the biblical Adam Nu Chava, das over there means connection. It's possible for a person to have a lot of information, but not to connect it. There is no das. You have a lot of information,
but you have no use of it.
But you have not internalized it and become one with it. Why is it that you have sometimes a person who's a Talmud Chacham and everything, and you find out he did something which was inappropriate? That's a lack of das. It's a lack of das. Das means to connect. Chachma and Bina is understanding. Das is connection. The Gemara says that Ganav Apumud Machtarta Rachmana Kari, which means that when a robber, before he's about to commit his crime, he takes a moment and he lets out a small, quick prayer to Hashem, saying, "Please help me." What? Help? Ana Hashem Hashiana. Help me a little. He believes in Hashem, obviously, but he didn't connect it. He didn't internalize it. He didn't become one with it. If he was one with the idea that there's Hashem, and that this Hashem supports everyone and feeds everyone and gives everyone life, etc., etc., he wouldn't be stealing, obviously. So das means that whatever you know or whatever you learned, you become one with. There was a chassid who lived in the early 19th century. His name was Rabbi Dvoskin. He was better known as Rabbi Lezer Chachersker because he came from the city of Chachersk. He was a very great chassid, a holy person. But he was Nabach, a very ill person. Literally, if any malady you could think of, he suffered from. So he was the head, the mashpia, in the Lubavitch Yeshiva in Kherson, in Russia. Probably talking in the 30s, 1930s. I believe he was killed by the Nazis. And there was another chassid, his name was Remendel Futterfass, who he was close to him, although Remendel was much younger than him, much younger. And again, he was so ill that it came to the point that he couldn't even eat anything because everything he ate was impacting him. He was having different reactions to the point that he literally ate every day a little bread and milk. That's it, that's all he was allowed to eat. And he was so weak, he could barely hold himself up. And at a certain point in time, they decided they're going to send him away to Dacha, send him away to the country for 2 weeks. So maybe he'll become a little more strong. He came back, didn't help anything. Came back to yeshiva, and they daven Ma'ariv, and after Ma'ariv, so Reb Mendel walks over to him and says, "Reb Lezer, was macht Yid?" So he says, "Oi, halavai, as mein Ruchnius soll sein as wie mein Gashmius." I wish that my Ruchnius was as good as my Gashmius. I wish that my spiritual life was as good as my physical life. So Reb Mendel looked at him. He's crazy. He says, "What kind of Gashmiistic life do you have? You have nothing. You have a piece of bread and a half a cup of milk a day." And he says, "What do you mean?" He says, "That's all you want? Such a meager spiritual life?" So he says, "Reb Mendel, was verstehst du nicht? Reb Mendel, what don't you understand? I eat only very little every single day. I eat a little piece of bread, and I eat and I have some milk. But the little that I eat, it goes in me and it invigorates me. It gives me the little strength that I have. Halavai, that my ruchni should be the same way. That whatever I learn, whatever I daven, it should enter within me and actually invigorate me. It should become one with me. It should become, I should have das, in different words." And when you connect with something, When it comes one with you, it becomes your reality. It becomes part of your being. There's a chassid of the Alter Rebbe whose name was Reb Shmuel Munkis. So one time he's walking to the Alter Rebbe, and it was bitter cold, as it gets bitter cold in Russia. And what comes by? Comes by a wagon. And the wagon driver sees a Yid walking on the side of the street and says, "Reb Yid, where are you going?" There, let me give you a ride. I'm going in the same direction. Climb in the back. Went in the back of the wagon. It was actually, this was a whiskey merchant. So the back was filled with barrels and kegs of whiskey. But he was sitting there shivering. I mean, it's better than trudging in the snow. But in a way, actually, at least when you're walking, at least you have some body heat eating you up. And he was getting very cold. And finally, after a little while, so he knocked on the front and asked the person, "Can I take a cup? Can I take a little cup of mashka, a little cup of whiskey?" The guy said, "Sure. Take what you want." So he took a little cup and he filled it up. He drank it. And suddenly he was warm. When he came to the Rebbe, he was talking to Chassidim. He says, "I learned an amazing lesson." He says, "There I was, surrounded by bottles of whiskey, and I was freezing. Even though I was surrounded by many barrels. But when I took one cup, but when it went inside me, suddenly I became warm." That's das. It's not how much Torah you know. It's how much Torah you connected with.